What's up, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane and another episode of Will It Run Wednesday. So it's been a little bit since we've made one of these. I was on vacation, and then after vacation, you can probably hear in my voice, I picked up some kind of sickness. I don't know if it's sinuses or what it is, but I'm starting to get over it now. But please bear with my kind of gravelly voice. I'll be better soon, I promise. So this is a bike I just picked up yesterday, and I'm pretty excited about it because I've always kind of wanted one of these. They're kind of quirky and a little bit weird. If you're not familiar, this is a late 60s, I believe this one's a 67, Honda 305 Dream, which is kind of a unique model. It's a little bit like a scooter because you can see it's small. It's a 305cc, but it has like all this kind of cool Art Deco style kind of fenders and this like, bread box kind of chrome gas tank, and they're just really unique. So I was excited to be able to pick this one up. I found it on Craigslist, basically a guy that used to own a motorcycle shop here in town, needed to clear out his storage unit and had a whole bunch of bikes, mostly kind of more modern dirt bikes and that kind of stuff. But I went and checked it out, spotted this guy in the corner and ended up making a deal on it. So it's one of those bikes that I've never worked on before, but I've always been kind of intrigued by. So let me give you guys a close-up walk around. Give you kind of a good idea of the overall condition of the bike, and then of course, Will It Run Wednesday, the name of the game is going to be to see if we can get this bike to run on its own power. So it's pretty complete. I think I'm only really missing like a side cover on that side and maybe a few other things, but for the most part, everything is here. It does have these big like ape hanger aftermarket handlebars. Not exactly sure why somebody would do that, but we will be putting some more kind of stock style bars on there at some point in the future, but they'll serve their purpose for now. I also do not believe that this front fender light is original. Somebody put that on in the past, but I kind of dig it. I think it goes with the overall theme, so we'll probably keep that. Has just a little 14-inch, I believe, front tire. It has the kind of interesting, and I wish I remembered the name of this suspension off the top of my head, but you can see the fork doesn't come right down over the axle like it does on kind of any other bike. It's got that it comes here and then it's got like a pivot and the springs are kind of exposed in there. If I remember to look up what that's called, I'll put it on the screen, but it's kind of a unique front suspension that's common in the mid to late 60s. This is the side cover I'm missing. This engine case was definitely just like rattle can painted at some point, and there's just like got drips and stuff all over it. So we'll probably fix that up. I believe it's, if I had to guess, it's a 4-speed. It's potentially a 5-speed, but I'm guessing 4-speed. Again, this is the side cover I'm missing. Somebody's been messing with the electronics, probably when they put these ape hangers on. Looks like they got rid of the handlebar controls. So we have 2 toggle switches. I'm assuming one of those is probably for like the headlight, and the other one is maybe a kill switch. And then this is like a momentary switch that I would assume is the electric start. We'll figure that out when we start to dive into the electronics here in just a little bit. Looks like factory exhaust is all complete. Nice, like, cool swooping kind of fender on the back. So overall, I dig it. Some people probably hate it. When I showed my wife, I thought she was gonna like it, and she was just like, "Oh, that's kind of funky." Yeah, I know it's funky. That's why I like it. So, what do you say? We check the oil, and then, I don't know, maybe we could just throw a jump box on this thing and at least see if the motor kind of turns over with the electric start. I know for a fact it does turn over with kick start, but I'm kind of curious of what that electronics looks like. Let's pull this dipstick and see what we got in here. Yeah, I don't know anything about how long this bike is sitting, if there's a reason why it was parked. It is a kind of like a lot of my Will It Run bikes is a complete mystery, so we shall see. Let me wipe it off. The oil looked pretty clean. It's definitely full. I mean, it's dirty, but it's not terrible. Honestly, I think we'll probably run with it. I'm gonna excuse me, I'm gonna drain it out and replace it once we get it running, but for now, for us to be able to just kind of turn it over and make sure the electric start and everything's working, I'm going to keep it in there. And then we'll start to make a parts list for this bike as well, you know, oil filter, that kind of stuff, as we go. But let's, I don't know, you want to throw a jump box on this battery and maybe mess with these switches and keys and stuff and just kind of see what we have from an electronic standpoint. Okay, I got the jump box hooked up. This is a 12 volt bike. I was wondering if possibly in this small of a bike it was going to be 6 volt, but I looked it up and it is in fact 12 volts, so we're good there. I'm going to turn the ignition key and hope we don't let out any magic smoke. Okay. I'm assuming it's like most Hondas where it's 2 clicks to full on. No tail light or anything. No magic smoke. No brake light. No signs of life just yet. Let's flip a switch. Okay, still no smoke. Still no lights of any kind. Let's try the other switch. Okay, we are still totally dead, not showing anything. What do you say we hit the start button? See if that does anything. Oh. Okay, turns over real nice with the start button. Sweet. So let's pull the side cover off of that side. I'll probably get my power probe out and we'll just kind of mess around and see if we can figure out exactly what these switches do. So when it comes time here in a little bit to check and see if we have spark, we can, you know, in fact do that. I'd also like to see if there is an oil pressure switch on this bike, because I want to make sure that we build up and have oil pressure before we even attempt to start it. Let's pull this side cover off. I'm hoping these side covers aren't like $1 million on eBay, so I can find that one over there and get a replacement for it. But we shall see. Okay, so we got a coil, we got a starter relay, voltage regulator, rectifier situation. Okay, all looks pretty standard. I'm surprised that this bike doesn't have turn signals. I wonder if it originally had turn signals and these are gone, or if they're just totally you know, never had them from the beginning. But okay, so we should be able to determine what one of those switches does by following the wiring that's going to the coil. So we can see if one of them is set up as a kill switch to kind of cut power to the coil. Let me grab a flashlight. I don't know if there's any way you guys are going to be able to see up in there, but let me see if I can. Okay, so I can see the back of those switches. Let's see. Okay, top right one is the start switch, and then the bottom. Alrighty, so we got just a black wire straight out of there. Oh yeah, this is definitely okay. It's just a random black wire hanging out right here. This red wire goes to one of the toggle switches. And then the other toggle switch only has one wire running to it. The other wire is missing. It could very well be this one. So this red wire, where would that be running up to? I'm not sure. There's a red wire cut up here. Man, the wiring on this thing is not great. Yeah, that is really hard to tell. We may end up just having to, you know, power the coil kind of directly with a temporary wire, and just kind of make our own kill switch. Next, I'm going to go ahead and just pull this seat and the gas tank off. Kind of make us a little bit more room to kind of see what we're doing, and I was kind of hoping it was going to be open on the top of that, but it's not. When does this come off? Let's see. Okay, it's got a bolt here that's missing. Man, this got a real custom petcock situation over here that we'll definitely have to address at some point. Looks like if somebody just went to the hardware store and kind of made their own setup here. Go. Yeah, I had that little crossover tube in the front. The inside of this tank's not in terrible shape. I think it's going to be one of those kind of soak in evapor rust, and we can probably bring it back. Okay. Well, that really didn't help us gain access to much because it's kind of completely solid up here, but at least it got us somewhat out of the way so we can start to trace some of these random power wires and just a lot of stuff kind of shooting all over the place, a lot of electrical tape. Okay, jump to the next day here. It's time to check for spark. I'm not entirely confident just because doing a little bit of digging, we have a lot of kind of random wires that are either cut or just not connected to anything. So what I imagine we're going to have to do is just kind of hot wire this system and kind of run our own power and stuff to the coils, but this could be running to something completely unrelated to spark. So we're gonna just try out our little spark plug, our spark tester here, just so that we can take the variable of the spark plug being bad out of the equation. We're gonna make sure that's nice and tight. Ground to the other side. What do we want to ground this on? This whole engine has some kind of weird gray paint. It looks awful. Give us a little bit of gap there. I got my battery box hooked up. Just for kicks, let's make sure the key is turned on. Okay, let's give it a shot. Switch these random toggle switches over here, see if that does anything. Nope. And this. Nothing. Okay, so that's kind of what I expected to find. I'm thinking we should just I guess we can test and see if the coil is even getting power right now. I did pull out my power probe. So let's see, the black wire should be our power. Yeah, it actually shows we're getting 12 volts to the coil. So that's good at least. Let's see if that changes when I flip these switches. Nothing happens on that one. Nothing happens on that one. So it must just be off of the key. Let's switch the key and see if it goes away. Yep. Okay. So we can just use a key as our kill switch. Should we actually get it running? So it may just be something as simple as needing to clean the points. So let's pull that cover off and see what our points look like. Probably just one set on this. Again, I've never really messed with these motors, but a lot of this Honda stuff is similar. Alrighty. I'm gonna pull my jumper box off just while we're messing with stuff so nothing's energized. don't look terrible, but let's run a little file in there. I like to run this little flat file. Sometimes I'll put some sandpaper in there. Fold a little piece of sandpaper, maybe 1,000 grit, 600, something pretty fine. You don't want to go in here with some 80 grit, and kind of let the points close on each other, and then do it that way. But if they're heavily corroded, I'll hit them with this file first. I'm going to turn it over a little bit by hand and make sure we're getting a decent gap. Okay. There is a gap. I'll have to look up and see what the actual proper point gap is, but that gap should at least get us enough. Yeah, let's just try it again now, see if it made any difference. Make sure our key is still on. Yeah. Just go for it. Okay. So this wire probably runs, looks like it may run up to a condenser, and then from the condenser back down to the coil. I'm going to try and trace that wire. I'm wondering if we can just, well, that just fell out. So that probably wasn't making a hell of a great connection. Wonder if so the green wire from the coil should be our signal wire. See if I can. Wonder if I can just connect these two right here, make a little quick jumper wire, and just take out any of the variable of the rest of this wiring and just have it run straight from this to the coil. So let me make a little, 1 foot jumper wire, and then we will try again. Made the quick jumper wire. Just give it a shot. I don't think I turned anything off. Nothing. Let's see. What could be causing that? Let's make sure our coil. Yep, coil still has power. I'm actually going to try the other spark plug as well, just to make sure the results are the same. I'll just move the operation to this side, and I'll tell you guys what I'm doing over here. Okay, I'm ready to test. Nope. All right, more digging. After some messing around, I think I determined that there's a good possibility my coil is bad. Because it seems like I'm getting the proper, trigger signal, and then I'm getting power to the coil, and I'm just still not getting any spark. So I'm going to attempt to swap it with a coil out of a CB550, because it looks very similar. I don't have any reason to think it wouldn't work. They're both 12 volt. They are different part numbers, but I mean, they're pretty darn similar. don't know. We're gonna give it a shot because if you know, Honda 4s have 2 spark plug wires out of 1 individual coil. They just run 2 coils instead of 1 like this bike. So fingers crossed, we're gonna swap it over and see if that makes any difference whatsoever. Okay, CB550 coil is in. I mean, there's only 2 wires. I don't know how I could have hooked it up wrong, so I don't know. Let's put some power to it and give it a shot. Hope we don't let out any magic smoke. Let's see, cautiously put the battery pack on. The beep is just my power probe. Okay. You know, a smart man would have swapped in a known good coil instead of just a random coil that I had laying around, because I don't actually know that this one is good, but we'll worry about that later. Set a little bit of a gap here. Let's see what happens. I think I'm actually seeing a very faint spark, but it is very faint. I don't even know that that would be enough to trigger a spark plug. So technically there is a spark there. Okay. That could still mean our condenser is bad. Let me see if I can throw a spark plug in here. I would be very surprised if that amount of spark I just saw would be enough to jump a spark plug gap, but only one way to find out. Where's a good ground that's not gonna mess me up here? I could probably just ground off of that. Why not? It is barely sparking across. I mean, super faint. Okay, let me throw a boot on this other one. I'm just gonna steal this guy and just see if we're getting the same result out of both plug wires. Okay, I'm actually getting a lot better spark out of this side, so maybe it's just this crappy old spark plug. Oh yeah, this thing wasn't even in all of it. Let's pull the boot off the other spark plug wire, factory one. Put it on here. Clip this thing back a little bit, get us some fresh meat. Let's try that. Fingers crossed. Not gonna get a crazy bend on this thing. It's sparking. It's still a little faint, but okay. Let's what do we want to do? Put a little bit of fuel down the cylinder? Throw the spark plugs in, see if that works. I can't really get a direct shot to like spray carb cleaner or something down the carb. Yeah, Yeah, let me, well crap, here's another problem. These wires are not long enough to reach the other cylinder over there. Well, shucks. I don't know that I can steal the spark plug wires out of this old coil. I don't think that's a thing. That they're serviceable. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. Might have to figure out a different place to mount this coil temporarily, so that we can actually reach the other side of the engine. But so I got the coil kind of just set up here in the middle underneath the carb, and then I ran a heavy gauge wire to ground it. I'm gonna hope that works. So what I'm gonna do now is actually spray some two-stroke gas. I kind of got this tip off of Musty One, which I love his videos. A lot of people say I'm trying to copy him, but it's more of a we are into the same kind of things. But either way, I took this from him, putting two-stroke gas just so it has a little bit of oil to kind of help lubricate things when it's dry. So I'm going to squirt a little bit on this side, put the plug in, and then I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Again, just because we don't really have direct access to spray like a carb cleaner or starting fluid or something directly down the carb, this is going to be the next best thing. There, we're going to go to this side and do the exact same thing, and then cross our fingers that we get a few pops and bangs on this thing, and if we do, we will then pull the carb off, clean it out, and then hook up my external gas tank so that we can actually try and fire it and let it run for a little bit. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Alright, moment of truth. Just make sure you guys are rolling and can see. I'll actually move you back here so you can kind of see everything. Fingers crossed. Man, I love working on Hondas. They just want to run. Sweet. Yeah, I mean that's all the pops and bangs we really needed. Let's get this carb off and clean it up, and then go from there. The carburetor over here on the bench. It's got this little pod filter on there, which means it's probably going to run pretty lean unless it's been the jet size has been bumped up on it. We shall see. I went ahead and turned on the ultrasonic cleaner and have it warming up just because the amount of caked on gunk on this thing. I think it's going to be for the best to let it run through a cycle on the ultrasonic. Everything seems to move pretty nice. Keep digging in. Fuel inlet. Thing definitely needs to soak. Let's see what our screws are at. Okay, little guy was 2 turns. So there should be a little spring in there. one turn out. Pull our little springs out so we don't lose them. That is if they want to come out. Okay, that one came out. Come on. There we go. Go ahead and pop our bowl off. Yeah, so you can see how long this thing has been sitting. It doesn't have that, you know, ethanol kind of residue that you would expect, that like kind of gummy, like, I don't know, almost like white powdery kind of stuff. So I'm thinking this has been sitting for, I don't know, I would guess 15, 20 years. Again, that's really hard to know for sure, but my somewhat uneducated guess would be about that long. Let's just keep digging in here. I'll have to look up what the float height settings and stuff are. Let's hope our floats don't have any pinholes in them. They look alright, but we'll see if they sink when we throw them in the ultrasonic. Start to pull our jets out. Definitely clogged through. This guy. And those of you who have been watching my channel recently know that I'm struggling with, I really want to vapor blast these after we're done, but well, I don't know, it seems kind of like a waste of time because the whole rest of the bike is not that clean. But once you have a vapor blasting cabinet, you just find excuses to blast everything. Let's see what size this is. Go with the socket. So I probably mentioned this earlier in the video, but I'm still not 100% what I'm going to do with this bike. Oh gosh, there is like leaves or some kind of debris or something right there where the needle and seat go in. That's funny. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this bike, because I don't really need another bike. I honestly don't really need another project. So I don't know if I'm just going to get it running, play around with it a little bit, and then maybe see if one of you guys are interested in buying it and actually completing the project, you know, doing the full restoration on it. I also think it would look cool in my office, but that doesn't really seem like a good idea. I'm going to leave, it's going to be a struggle, I'm going to leave this seal on here because if I try to pull it off, it's definitely going to break, and I don't have a replacement for it. So maybe being in the carb cleaner will kind of hydrate it a little bit and hopefully not eat through it, but I guess time will tell. That is about as far as I'm going to tear it down. We have all the mixture screws out, we have all the jets out, some of the debris. So I'm going to continue to let the ultrasonic cleaner heat up. Once it's ready, I'm going to plop them in there for probably, I don't know, 10-15 minutes since they are pretty gummy. And then I'll bring you guys back when that's done and we will see how it looks. Just pulled everything out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Seemed to turn out pretty well. It's got some like surfaced rust and stuff on the choke, but overall seems functionality wise I think it's going to be good. Our seals stayed intact and look like they're going to do the job. You know, eventually this bike will need a full proper rebuild with replacing all these parts, but this should get us pretty close. We're going to throw in our idle and mixture screws. Already put the little spring in there so I wouldn't lose them. This one was 2 turns out. I believe the mixture screw was one turnout. We will fine tune that once we get the bike up and running, but just to get us close, start with that. Put our seat in. It looks like our floats are going to be good. They cleaned up and it doesn't look like they got any carb cleaner on the inside, so I'm going to assume that there's no leaks. Let's keep going here. One thing I didn't do was look up the float height adjustment. So let me take a minute, look that up real quick just so we can set it back up properly. Alright, from what I'm finding, it looks like it's 26.5 millimeters. Sure, Carb is looking very close to that. How I like to set mine is I use this like cheap caliper. And you can set it to 26 and then just use this end. So if that goes onto the base, I'm having to go right next to the gasket and then just make sure kind of the very top of that float just goes to basically the bottom of the caliper here. Looking pretty good. So we're going to keep on going. And we'll put this guy on. We're ready for the fuel inlet, and this thing can go back on the bike. I'll probably keep the pod filter off for now in case we need to throw in any carb cleaner or anything down there to get it started. Should be ready to go back on. Okay, I believe we are ready. Have my auxiliary fuel tank hooked up there. Opened it up. It doesn't seem like we're leaking any fuel out or anything. I don't know if I've showed you guys this yet. Obviously it's not done, but I basically built this little filtration system. So it's got this like 8-inch duct that goes to a high capacity ventilation fan down there that then ducts up and through and outside. Because if you don't know, I live in Texas. It's currently well over 100 degrees outside, and I'm fortunate enough to have this air-conditioned shop. So I kind of like to leave my garage door closed as much as possible, but I'm not trying to die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So I want to get some ventilation. I need to build like a Y for bikes with dual exhaust. A lot of the bikes I build are like 4-into-1, so I haven't gotten this far yet. So I know that this is like doing probably almost nothing, but I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to run the bike for a whole heck of a long time. I just want to help as much as we possibly can. So in theory, we should be able to start it now. I got to throw the Jumpbox back on. I've been trying to charge this battery, and I think it's just totally beyond saving. So we'll throw this on. choke on. Turn my key. Should have flow. See what happens. Cable's coming loose. Okay. Terrible. Looks like I have a small fuel leak. I want to run it much more than that with this makeshift ventilation system. Shut our fuel off. I'm very happy with that. I mean, a carb clean and a new coil and she's ready to go. So what I need to do now is I need to run to the store and get a new gallon or two of Evapo-Rust to put into the gas tank so we can clean that out. I'm also going to pick up some new oil so we can drain this oil. I'm going to go ahead and drain it now that it's warm. And put some fresh stuff in there. Well, I went to go put some Evapo-Rust in the gas tank, and this homemade petcock contraption just leaks from every different angle possible. So that obviously needs to be addressed. So that kind of puts me into a place where I'm probably just going to call it on this video for this particular bike right now, just because I have to decide what I want to do with this project overall. So I don't need another kind of restoration project or another big project for the shop right now. We're pretty much to capacity. I'll be showing you guys. I have a customer bike here. I have another bike I picked up this week. I have another customer bike over there, and we have enough work in the shop. I don't necessarily need another project right now, but you know, this was a cool enough bike I wanted to pick up and get running and stuff. So let me know what you guys think. Maybe one of you would be interested in picking this bike up. Let me know. We can kind of work out a deal. I am going to go ahead and fire it up one more time for you guys. So this is going to be a cold start. I haven't actually started the bike since yesterday, so we'll see how it does. Turn the fuel on. Got my battery. Give it some choke. Turn the key. Let's see how she does on a cold start. Not bad. Good runner, that's for sure. Don't want to smoke out my shop. Well, that's going to do it on another successful episode of Will It Run Wednesday. I know it's been a little while since I uploaded a video, and I appreciate you guys. You know, a lot of you have been kind of checking in, seeing where I'm at, and we've just been busy. So like I mentioned, I was on vacation. Vacation I planned long before I even knew I was going to be doing Classic Octane full time. So we did that. Everything was great. We came back. I did you know, get a little bit of a sickness, and then also we've been blessed enough to have a lot of customer work and a lot of you know, kind of profitable jobs, which is what we need, obviously, to keep this thing going. So occasionally it'll be a little while between videos, just because sometimes I'm working on customers' bikes that they don't want it filmed. Sometimes what I'm doing on those bikes is just not interesting enough to justify filming the content. Sometimes it needs to be a quick turnaround time, and as you guys probably know, filming something makes it take a lot longer. But I am going to try and get in the habit of just filming more stuff. So some of the videos may be more interesting than others. I'm going to keep this Will It Run series going because it's something I really enjoy doing. And then if we are doing kind of quick flips on bikes and stuff, getting them running will add value. So it's kind of a good revenue source for the business and for the shop as a whole. And it also makes good video content, which is obviously a win-win. So again, I appreciate you guys being patient. I'll make sure it is not near as long as it has been since the last video before the next one. Let me know what you guys think of the little 305 Dream. I think it's a pretty quirky, cool little bike. Now that we know it runs, you know, we'll figure out what to do with the project. If it's a bike that you may want to, you know, bring home and do a restoration on or something, hit me up on Instagram or email me, classicoctane.com, if you want some more info on it. That being said, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and I'll make sure to see you guys soon.